Hello and welcome to A Dog's View. I'm Jody Fitzgerald. I am a licensed family dog mediator and founder of Fix Your Dog. This show is about learning to understand dogs, dog behavior from a dog's perspective, because dogs are always communicating with us. The challenge is that humans often don't recognize the language that dogs are using, and that's where misunderstandings begin. One of the most important things I want people to understand is that behavior is information. Dogs communicate primarily through their body language and their behavior. They don't have words to say things like we do. So everything they are experiencing, their curiosity, their stress, their excitement, their uncertainty, their fear, or their comfort, it's all expressed through what they do. This is why a dog might do things like bark or freeze or sniff or look away, move closer to something or move away from something, or why they dig. They scan the environment. And sometimes, lots of times, I see dogs just stop and pause and listen to what's going on in the environment. So, every one of those behaviors is part of how a dog is interpreting the world and responding to the world around them. But this is where humans often go wrong. Instead of asking what the behavior is telling us, we often jump straight to labels. You start saying, the dog is stubborn, or my dog is dominant, my dog is aggressive, or my dog is bad. But labels don't explain behavior. They often stop us from becoming curious about it. And sometimes, very often, when a dog becomes labeled, it changes the way people see the dog and how they treat the dog. And when a dog is labeled, people sometimes stop asking such important questions, like instead of what might my dog be experiencing right now, people start saying, this is just how my dog is. That's just how he is. The problem is that behavior is almost always influenced by context. So dogs are constantly responding to the environment and from their past experiences and their genetics and their emotional state at the time and their physical well-being. So that's why behavior can change depending on the situation. The legs model helps us understand behavior. LEG stands for learning, environment, genetics, and self. And learning is something that is happening all the time and that the dog has experienced in the past. It's gathered together and it's always happening throughout life. And what's they learn what's worked for them and what hasn't, maybe what scared them. They're always learning. The environment is always influencing them, and we can look at their behavior in different environments, and it's what a dog is going on around them, where they are and what's going on around them, and their genetics, what dogs are bred for, what their story is. Some are scent dogs, some are meant to protect and to meant to hunt, which means they like to sniff and dig and search and chase and scan. Depends on the breed, depends on that's definitely the genetics is in there and influencing them all the time, their behavior. And the self of the dog, how the dog is feeling, the individual self of the dog, including their age, their development, their health, and their personality. And when we start looking at dogs and behavior through this legs lens, we often realize that what can look like a problem behavior is actually the dog trying to cope with something in their environment. And another thing, a wonderfully exciting thing that becomes clearer when we observe dogs carefully, is the incredible behavioral diversity that they show. When you look at a dog, and a lot of times when people look at a dog out a window, they think the dog isn't doing anything. They think the dog is not doing much. But if you slow down and you really watch through that legs lens and taking a look at their behaviors, you notice how many behaviors are actually happening at once. A dog might be sniffing the ground, they might be stopping to listen, they might be scanning the distance, looking off, they might be orientating towards a sound, so they might be, looking towards a sound. They might be investigating a scent trail, following a trail on the ground. Sometimes they're even just deciding what to do next. These behaviors are all part of how dogs gather information and navigate the world. They are not meaningless, they are part of the dog's natural behavior. And behavior is also closely connected to welfare. When we look at the 5 domains of animal welfare, we recognize that a good life for dogs involves more than just food and shelter. Dogs also need opportunities to explore, to engage in these senses that they have, the smell, the hearing, the tasting, the it's the even just the energy sense, right? Being able to make choices and interacting with people and with animals and with the environment. And they need to experience positive emotional states. When these needs are not, when they are supported, behavior often becomes easier to understand and to manage. I love sharing my story of Effie because she is a dog that I worked with that was labeled as aggressive and fearful, because I get to see her. So I worked with her and I get to see her, the results of a dog living a great life, who was labeled. And it didn't take long, before everybody thought she was aggressive and was worried and getting scared of her and didn't know what to do with her. So now we're treating her differently. So when I was consulted, we were able to take a look at her, the dog, and take a look at Effie and slow down and really look at what was happening. And a very different picture emerged. She wasn't just randomly aggressive. She was struggling with the situations that made her feel so very uncomfortable and overwhelmed. And her behavior was actually communication. She was trying to create space and to protect herself in the only way she knew how. So once we started paying attention to behavior as information, and we started listening to her and helping her and giving her choices and building her confidence, instead of reacting to the label, we were able to better understand what she was experiencing and support her differently. And that really helped her. And that's an important reminder that when we label dogs, we often stop being curious. But when we look at behavior as communication, we start asking better questions. And that's where understanding begins. Effie didn't need a label. She needed people to understand what her behavior was trying to tell us. When we shift our thinking from how do we stop this behavior to what might this behavior be telling us, we start seeing dogs differently. Behavior becomes a conversation instead of a problem. Dogs are incredibly expressive animals, but their language is built from behavior, movement, and body signals, not words. When we learn how to observe those behaviors with curiosity instead of judgment, we begin to understand them much more clearly. And that's what a dog's view is about: learning to pause, observe, and see behavior through the perspective of the dog. Behavior is not a problem, it's information. When we slow down and look at behaviors with curiosity instead of judgment, we begin to see things from a dog's view. I want to thank you very much for joining me today for A Dog's View. Next time you're watching your dog, I want you to take a moment to notice how many behaviors are actually happening. You might see way more than you think. Please subscribe to my channel and share this with anybody who's struggling with their dog. And join me for the next episode of A Dog's View.